Hey guys, Bill here. I want to talk to you today about prepping. Specifically, I want to do this piece for Prepper Advantage. One of the things, if you've seen any of my previous videos or know what I talk a lot about, is verbiage and the words we choose. And I think it's important, the words we choose, because we don't all speak the same language. We all have different experiences in life, and we all come from different walks of life. My previous life, I was a military medic. I was also a first responder, and I now teach first responders, and I teach tactical medicine. I travel all over the country. And one thing you come to notice, or you come to realize, is people all speak different languages. Not just different languages, but we have different slangs and different meanings for words. And the reason I want to bring that to your attention, or the reason I think it's important, is in order for us to communicate effectively, we have to understand each other. So this past couple of days, I was doing some work, working on what's called a rescue task force. And if you're not familiar with what the rescue task force concept is, it's a concept of getting fire and EMS and medical assets into what we call a warm zone. So think about in an active shooter situation. If you're familiar with any of the previous active shootings, one of the issues that comes up often in the after action, or one of the lessons learned commonly, is there's a significant delay in getting these people who have life-threatening injuries to treatment or getting medical treatment to them. And the concept behind the rescue task force is to integrate law enforcement and first responders. So if that's fire and EMS, integrated with law enforcement. I know they're both first responders and they both kind of have very similar roles in public safety. They speak different languages. They have different cultural backgrounds. They have different belief systems and different training methods. So one of the things we have to do is try to clear that up and try to get us to understand each other and work off the same sheet of music. So for Prepper Advantage, what I really love about it is taking down the root of those two words, right? Let's start with prepper. If you look up a definition of a prepper, it's someone who believes that a catastrophic emergency or a catastrophic situation or an emergency can occur. And start right there. If you don't believe that an emergency can occur, then you got to ask yourself, why do you have 911 in your city or in your municipality? An emergency condition or emergency circumstance can happen at any given point, right? I'm going to talk a little bit in a bit about this bag. I stole my wife's hiking bag today. We'll look at some of the contents that are in there. I'm just going to do just a hike, right? So for me, thinking about my hike, what are the things I need to do to plan or prepare ahead of time, right? Part of being a medic, right? Part of military medicine or any military planning operation, we do what's called ORM, Operational Risk Management. And we talk about, hey, what are the circumstances? What's this evolution going to look like? And what are some potential outcomes? And let's start to prepare for those outcomes now. If something does happen, what's the worst that could happen, right? We often use the word COA, right? Course of action. If it's a negative course of action, what is our response going to be? Let's not wait until there's an emergency that happens before we start thinking about how we're going to react to it. And so from a prepper standpoint, I think the prepper thing's interesting because it has a lot of negative connotation, right? And personally, I think it shouldn't. I think everybody's a prepper. I think if you're a mom and you're going out shopping for the kids for the day or with the kids for the day and you bring a diaper bag, you're a prepper. I think if you got a flashlight in your car, you're a prepper, right? You envision a circumstance where maybe you need to be able to see in the dark, and that's being prepared, right? That's a certain circumstance might occur and you want to be prepared. You want to have what you need kind of on hand to give you that advantage, right? And if you look up the definition of advantage, it's having a superior position or having a favorable position based on an outcome, right? So we think of it from a sports standpoint, right? What gives you the advantage, right, over your foe? And from a prepper standpoint, what gives you the advantage, or who's your foe? Who's your opponent, right? Is it Mother Nature? Is it the set of circumstances or the hand you've been dealt? So what are the things that you can do today and now that give you that advantage, right? What are the things you can do from a preparedness standpoint that put you in a better situation, that give you the upper hand, right? The ability to solve that problem. What you don't want to do is wait till the emergency arises. You don't get to choose when the emergency situation happens. I mean, maybe you do, I guess, if you're neglectful and you do something ridiculously silly. But for the most part, the emergency situation chooses you. You get to choose how you've trained and how you prepared for it. So all I wanted to talk about today was just a simple hike, right? Thinking about what are the things I need to do to be responsible prior to going out on this hike? What are the things I need to bring with me? What are the things I need to do before I step off, right? What's a reasonable expectation, right, of the circumstances I might encounter, right? Where am I? What's my environment? What is the weather like? How long am I going for? Do I have a map? Do I have a GPS? Do I have a cell phone that has service in the event that I step off the edge and snap my ankle or break a leg or something? Or even if I get lost, or have the ability to navigate back just using my cell phone service, right? Do I leave a plan with someone, right? Do I tell my wife, hey, I'm going to be hiking, doing the Appalachian Trail today. Here's where I'm going to be heading in. Here's when I expect to come out. And here's when I expect you to hear back from me. Here's where I parked my vehicle. Maybe I drop a pin. Right? Those are simple little responsible things to do that might absolutely sway the outcome in my favor. Heaven forbid something goes wrong. As a medic, that's my job. And I know if you're a parent, you probably do the same thing all the time. I've got 2 boys. I'm always looking for, hey, where are we in space or time and space? And what are they going to climb on? What are they going to break? And what store am I in? What's the most expensive item they can get their hands on and break that I'm going to have to explain to the store owner I'm going to have to pay for, right? Or, hey, where are they? They're at the playground, and one of them could, because he's a maniac on the jungle gym, could fall off and snap his leg. What's my plan going to be for that? Today, I'm hiking by myself, right? If I were hiking with somebody else, what's their capability? What's their competency level? What's our size differences? If I'm injured, would they be able to evacuate me out? If they're injured, would I have the ability to evacuate them out? Would I be able to bring them to the trailhead or carry them, right? I know roughly what my training is. I know what my ability to carry weight is, what's theirs. So I grabbed her bag, and what we're going to do, we're going to have an upcoming podcast, and I want to talk to you a little bit about just some of the stuff that's going to come up. One of the first interviews I wanted to do is about a story, and I don't want to kind of blow the story. I don't want to give too much away too early, but basically it's about a guy that went out with his friends bouldering or climbing, and he had an accident happen. And then he kind of talks about all the things that his friends did amazingly to save his life. And then we'll talk about the lessons learned from that. Very talk about now his point of view, maybe how things might have been different. So for me, one of the most common questions, I worked at a very high level military unit. I worked at a tier 1 unit, at what we call a special mission unit in a previous life. And so whenever I train medics, they're always really interested in gear and Gucci gear and cool guy stuff and Patagucci stuff. And I get that. And I'm not a huge gear hound. I do like gear. I think it's important. I'm way more concerned with your level of knowledge and training. Give me a piece of gear, and as long as I know how it works and I play with it enough, I can get it to achieve the result that I want. I think it's too easy to get wrapped in writing a big check or spending a lot of money on your credit card, getting something really cool and high speed, and then when the emergency situation presents itself, you don't know how to use it. So there's got to be an equal balance there. So one of the most common questions that medics will ask me is, hey, what med bag do you carry? And I think it's a silly question. I think it's very similar to, hey, I'm going to get a handgun. I'm going to purchase my first handgun. What do you think I should get? Right? Everybody's different. What is your expectation? What is your level of training? How big is your hand? What am I doing? My answer to the med bag question is, if I'm in Afghanistan and I've got to get off a helicopter and walk for 4.5 hours, well, picture the size bag that I want to carry, right? If I'm in Arizona and I'm sitting in an air-conditioned Suburban and I'm covering a skydive trip, right? They're skydiving. What's the expected injury pattern, right? Fall, broken leg, hard landing, pelvic fracture. I probably have a spine board. I probably have all kinds of things that I would never carry if I were walking and I had to carry that much weight, right? Or it wasn't feasible to carry. So the situation and the circumstance dictates the appropriate gear for me. So when we get into medicine or we get into trauma and we get into, like I talked about earlier, verbiage, right? Specifying verbiage. One of the things I'd like to kind of share, one of my personal opinion is stop saying first aid. Because my opinion is first aid is for non-life-threatening injuries. Think about what's in a traditional first aid box, and it's cotton balls, and it's Band-Aids, and it's slings. And those are all great things. We're going to do future videos about those things and how to use them and how to make makeshift slings and all that stuff. That's all great stuff. The reality is, if you do a poor job of first aid on someone, they generally don't die from that. Because typically first aid is for injuries and not life-threatening, not typically trauma stuff. So want to separate trauma gear from first aid gear. I think it's good to just clearly delineate that. It doesn't mean you can't have one bag and you can't have some trauma gear and some first aid gear. I generally keep them separate. I don't contaminate them. And I'll share some stories with you where I've been overly prepared, where I've had tons of trauma gear and I've had somebody hurt their finger and I don't have a Band-Aid, right? And of course, you look like the worst medic on the planet because you're not prepared, right? So have a reasonable expectation about what could potentially go wrong when that emergency happens, and what do you need to have on you? And then within reason, what can I carry? So today what I wanted to talk about is, before I even dive into the bag, and again, this is her bag, I didn't grab mine, but what do I carry on my person, right? I've got pockets. What's part of my EDC or my everyday carry? And one of the things I'll almost always have with me is a SWAT T tourniquet. This tourniquet is relatively inexpensive. It doesn't weigh very much at all. You can see how thin it is. It's probably half the size and weight of my iPhone. And this tourniquet is by no means the best tourniquet on the planet, but I tell you what, it can be effective. Some of the other tourniquets that are out there that you might find, and I know she's got one in her bag, she's got a SWAT T in here as well, is a cat tourniquet. And like I said, I'll fish around in the bag and we'll talk about some of the things that are in here, some of the goodies. Is a cat tourniquet. Cat tourniquet's the most popular tourniquet on the planet. More EMS agencies use this tourniquet than any other one. This is probably the most commonly used military tourniquet. This is a Generation 7 cat. We'll do different videos on all of these different things and how to use them and where to get them. That's a conversation for another time. You can find a lot more tourniquet information on firstcareprovider.org. That's a nonprofit that I helped found. And our mission is to teach sort of traumatic emergency response and medicine to everyday ordinary citizens like yourself. Teach people what to do in an emergency. Not first aid, lessons learned from combat and the military. Lessons that most of us teach to first responders. We think school teachers and soccer moms and husbands and hockey coaches should all know how to do those things. So if you get a chance, check that out. So I just want to talk to you about, again, SWAT T, cat tourniquet. These are simple, tiny little things, relatively inexpensive. I don't expect that somebody's going to throw that in their pocket and carry that on their person every day. I don't do that, right? I have them in my car. I've got them in my range bag when I go shoot on the range. I've got them in my hiking bag. I've got them in my camping kit. I've got them in my truck. So yes, I have them available, but again, what is my circumstance? What emergency do I expect to encounter? So I'll kind of ditch those and I'll kind of show you. I've got a couple of them that are open, and this is all a SWAT T looks like when it's available. And I'll like I said, I'll do additional videos and we'll show you how to use these things more effectively. And that's a cat tourniquet. And this one's open and exposed because we use it for training. And you can see we've written the word training right on it. She's got a trauma kit in here, right? And this is a little bit bulky, but this has got everything you would need to take care of one victim or one patient. I hate using the word victim because it's just has a lot of negative connotation, right? If you're prepared and if you do what you're supposed to do, then you're less likely to be victimized, right? If you go out there with a PMA or positive mental attitude, I just don't think you're a victim, right? I think that you choose to fight for your life and you choose to be prepared, put in a little work ahead of time, then you're definitely not a victim, right? You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you can certainly sway the outcome of that. So this is just a high-speed trauma pack. This one's obviously pretty advanced. It's got the care system on it. There are some lower visibility ones that obviously not as robust and don't have as much stuff in them, but there's still something, and that's probably a more feasible everyday carry option. She's got a Rapid Pure. I love these. They make Life Straws and all kinds of other companies, and like I said, I'll do additional videos on all these things that none of this stuff magically ended up in her bag. It's all stuff that I like and I recommend and stuff that I vetted. This is great because it's kind of an Nalgene bottle, right? It flips open, you drink out of it, you put anything in there and it purifies it, right? Without having to boil it, without having to, we can get into how it purifies it and microns and all that kind of stuff. And but at the end of the day, it's really simple. I know that she doesn't have to go through a whole lot. I know if she comes across any water, she runs it through this, even if it's mud, what she gets out the other end is going to be safe for her to drink. The other thing I think I might have thrown in here, she's got some bug spray, she's got fire starter that I gave her. These are called lightning strikes. By far and away, in my opinion, this is the best lightning or fire starter that I've come across, and I've come across quite a few of them. I don't want to make this a how to start fire video, but just quickly, and you saw a piece fell out. This is just wadding, right? That's got some stuff that ignites it that's impregnated on this. I don't know if it's alcohol based or whatever it is, but it's pretty flammable stuff, right? So this is just a little bit of wadding that's in there, and it gets protected by the cap. When you remove that cap, you get your striker, right? And then you can see your striker's protected, right? And you get a pretty significant spark out of that thing. So something like that, pretty significant tool, as opposed to, doesn't mean I don't carry matches or I don't carry a lighter. I generally have all those things. I have a GPS. Generally, we have more than one tool for the job, right? What we talk about a lot is PACE. Maybe that's an acronym you've heard of, and I'll write a separate article about PACE, but we use PACE a lot when we talk about our communication plan. right? And it stands for primary. What's my primary means of communication? It's going to be cell phone. What's my alternate plan, right? That's the A in PACE. If my cell phone doesn't work, I'm going to scream and yell for help. Maybe her alternate plan is this whistle, right? She's got this little combination whistle, rape whistle, bear whistle, I don't know what you want to call it. We don't have bears in the area we live in here in West Virginia, so maybe it's a rape whistle. That may be her alternate plan, right? And then contingency is the C. What's your contingency plan for communications? Maybe it's a signaling device, maybe a mirror or something. Maybe it's just whistling as loud as you can, and that's kind of similar to this. And then an emergency plan. So, hey, if all else fails, what am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to start a fire and put up signals. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to shine with my flashlight or whatever it might be. But using 4 levels to accomplish one thing gives us tons and tons of redundancy and tons of overlap. One of the things we like to say is that 1 is none and 2 is 1, right? And really what that means is if you've only got 1 of something, don't count on it being there when you reach for it, or don't count on it working, right? So yeah, if your only means of starting a fire is matches, what happens if they're wet? Your only means of a tourniquet is just 1, and that comes up a lot, right? How many of anything should I carry? Well, here's what I'll say. You've got 4 extremities. If you're carrying 1 tourniquet, I guess you're 25% covered. And again, I understand feasibility and reasonability too. I don't expect that the whole world's going to walk around carrying 27 tourniquets in their pocket. That's not a realistic expectation. If you work somewhere where you expect or there's a possibility that something could explode, then I would strongly recommend having tourniquets. I've been to gun ranges, many gun ranges, where we go and we train folks and they don't even have tourniquets. They don't have a trauma bag. And I'll ask and they'll say, oh yeah, you mean the first aid bag? And I'll go over and look, and of course it's exactly what you think it is. It's Band-Aids, cotton balls, baby wipes, all kinds of stuff, which is nice to have, but God forbid somebody shot themselves in the leg, none of that's gonna make a difference. And what ends up happening is their only solution to those emergency situations is to call 911 on your phone. And I'm not dissuading you from calling 911, I'm just saying that can't be your only course of action. 911 in most municipalities is 5.5, 6 minutes away. 5.5 and 6 minutes is an eternity when you're dying, when you're bleeding to death. So this is gonna be heavy med based, I understand that. And like I said, I'll break more of this down. What I'll do is maybe we'll do a little scenario where one of the kids gets injured, we'll moulage them up, we'll get some fake blood going, and I'll just walk you through the availability of having this tourniquet, right? The difference in me throwing that tourniquet on in a matter of 35, 45 seconds, a minute, whatever it is, versus having to MacGyver it, right? Having to take off my belt, which doesn't work well, having to take straps off the backpack and use the carabiner, or having to go find a stick, right? Now there's a scavenger hunt element involved here. So having the right tool for the job is always the best solution to the problem, right? And doesn't mean you can't get the job done other ways, but again, what do you expect to have happen? What is the outcome of that? And how do you sway the outcome of that? So just think about that. Just think about what you're doing and what you can do maybe to make yourself a little safer. I hope you got something out of this video. Like I said, we'll do plenty more. Look forward to sharing the story with you on the podcast. Look forward to many more videos with you. I hope whatever you're doing, just take a few minutes to think about it, think about the worst possible outcome, think about some small little adjustments you might be able to make yourself and your loved ones safer. And I hope that we talk again real soon.
I think a very simple one-man fire.
Only one match. Only one match.
I can't get any closer to the fire.
Okay.
And I want you to watch how the flame is going to go up, right? And it's going to start eating them. I'm not 100%.